The observation deck of the Keltharian warship Crimson Talon hummed with the usual pre-battle tension. Commander Vex Ari stood before the viewport, his 4 arms crossed in what he hoped was an intimidating pose. Behind him, his crew worked their stations with practiced efficiency. "Sir, the human vessel is holding position," reported Lieutenant Kress, her voice crackling through the comm system. Vex Ari allowed himself a thin smile. Holding position. Of course they were. What else could one pathetic human cargo hauler do against a fully armed Keltharian destroyer? This would be over before the second moon rose over his homeworld. "Open a channel," he commanded, his voice dripping with the confidence of someone who had never actually fought a human before. The view screen flickered to life, and there she was, the human captain. Vex Ari had expected someone larger, perhaps. Someone who looked like they could at least pretend to put up a fight. Instead, he got a woman who couldn't have been more than 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair pulled back in a messy knot, wearing what appeared to be a jacket held together by patches and sheer optimism. She was smiling. Not the smile of someone facing certain doom. Not even the smile of someone who had accepted their fate. No, this was the smile of someone who knew something you didn't, and was absolutely delighted about it. "Captain." Vex Ari glanced at his datapad. "Captain Maya Torres, of the freighter Dancing Sparrow. You are carrying cargo that belongs to the Keltharian Empire. Surrender it immediately, and we might let you keep your ship." Torres leaned back in her chair, propping her feet up on what looked like a control console. "Might, huh? That's generous. Here's a counteroffer. You turn that pretty warship around, head back to whatever militaristic hellhole you crawled out of, and we'll pretend this whole embarrassing encounter never happened." The bridge went silent. Vex Ari felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. Did this tiny human just threaten him? "I don't think you understand your situation, human. We have weapons capable of turning your ship into cosmic dust. We have shields that could withstand a supernova. We have a crew of 500 trained warriors. What do you have?" Torres appeared to think about this for a moment, tapping her finger against her chin. "Coffee, mostly. Really good coffee. Want some?" "You look like you could use it." "Bit tense there, Commander." Kress made a choking sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Vex Ari shot her a glare that could have melted hull plating. "This is your final warning, Captain Torres. Surrender the cargo, or we will board your vessel and take it by force." "Board my ship?" Torres sat forward now, and something in her expression shifted. The smile was still there, but it had changed. Sharpened. "You want to board my ship, with your warriors, your trained warriors." 500 of them, Vex Ari confirmed, wondering why he suddenly felt less confident about this number. Right. 500. How many are you planning to send over exactly?" "All 500 seems like overkill, don't you think?" "I'll send 50. That should be more than sufficient to handle one human and whatever pitiful crew you have aboard that rust bucket." Torres actually laughed at that. A genuine belly-deep laugh that made Vex Ari's skin crawl. 50. Okay, you know what? Sure, come on over. Dock at Port 3. I'll even leave it unlocked for you. Make yourselves at home. This was wrong. This was all wrong. Humans didn't act like this when they were cornered. They were supposed to be afraid, or defiant in a desperate kind of way, or trying to negotiate. They weren't supposed to be inviting their attackers aboard with the casual air of someone offering tea to a neighbor. But Vex Ari had come too far to back down now. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "Heavy armor, full weapons loadout. And someone get me a bioscan of that ship. I want to know exactly how many humans we're dealing with." The scan came back moments later. Kress read the results with obvious confusion. "Sir, there's only one life form aboard the Dancing Sparrow. The captain. One human. One small, smiling human who had just invited 50 armed warriors onto her ship. Sir, Cress said carefully. Perhaps we should reconsider. This could be a trap. A trap? What kind of trap could one human possibly set for 50 Keltharian warriors? Vexari snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. Proceed with the boarding, and Cress, have medical standing by. Just in case. The boarding party assembled in the docking bay with impressive speed. 50 warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall, armored in combat exoskeletons, carrying plasma rifles that could punch through reinforced steel. They were led by Sergeant Thrax, a veteran of 12 campaigns who had personally killed more enemies than most soldiers would see in a lifetime. Thrax looked bored. Sir, are you certain about this? He asked over the comm. The target is one unarmed human female. This seems excessive. Just get in there, secure the cargo, and get out, Vexari ordered. And be careful. Something about this doesn't feel right. Careful of what? Her harsh language? But Thrax assembled his team anyway, because orders were orders, even when they were stupid. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The boarding party filed onto the Dancing Sparrow, weapons raised, moving in perfect formation through the narrow corridors of the freighter. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. The lights flickered occasionally, and the air had that recycled taste that came from life support systems running a little too long between maintenance. The walls were covered in human writing, most of it nonsensical. Touch my cargo and die. Warning, owner bites. This space intentionally left terrifying. These humans have a strange sense of humor, one of the warriors muttered. They found her in the cargo bay. Captain Torres stood in the center of the vast space, surrounded by containers marked with Keltharian military codes. She had changed into different clothes, Thrax noticed. Combat boots, dark pants, and a tank top that showed arms covered in scars. Old scars, the kind that came from surviving things that should have killed you. She was still smiling. Hey there, she said, her voice echoing off the metal walls. Glad you could make it. I was getting bored. Thrax raised his rifle. 49 other rifles followed suit, all pointed at the small human in the center of the bay. On your knees, human. Hands behind your head. Torres tilted her head, considering this. See, here's the thing about humans, boys. We have this little quirk. We don't kneel very well. Something about our evolutionary psychology, I think. We're just not built for submission. I won't ask again. Good, because I wouldn't comply again. Torres rolled her shoulders, and Thrax heard joints pop. You know what I was doing before I became a cargo hauler? Guess. Go on, take a wild guess. Nobody answered. The warriors shifted uneasily, fingers tightening on triggers. I was a close-quarters combat instructor for the Human Colonial Marines, 10th Division. You know what we called ourselves? The Reapers. Cute, right? Kind of on the nose, but we liked it. Her smile widened. Want to know how long I held that position? I don't care about your past, human. I care about my orders. 12 years, Torres continued, ignoring him completely. 12 years teaching humanity's finest killers how to kill better. Hand-to-hand, blade work, improvised weapons, zero-G combat, enclosed space fighting. I wrote 3 of the training manuals myself. There's a technique named after me. The Torres Reversal. Look it up sometime. If you survive. Thrax felt the first genuine stirring of concern. Fire! Nothing happened. Warriors pulled 49 triggers, and 49 plasma rifles clicked empty. Torres laughed, holding up a small device. Plasma inhibitor. Cost me 3 months' salary and a bottle of really good whiskey, but it was worth it. Works on a localized field. Your guns are basically expensive clubs now. The cargo bay erupted into chaos. Thrax threw his useless rifle aside and charged, drawing his blade. Behind him, his warriors did the same, 50 armored soldiers rushing one small human woman. They never stood a chance. Torres moved like water, like smoke. like something that shouldn't have been possible. She ducked under Thrax's blade, drove her elbow into his throat with enough force to crack his helmet, and used his momentum to throw him into 3 of his own soldiers. A warrior came at her from the left. She caught his arm, twisted, and the sound of breaking bone echoed through the bay. Another from the right. She dropped low, swept his legs, and brought her boot down on his knee joint. The armor held, but the warrior went down anyway. "Come on!" she shouted, and she was grinning like a maniac now, dancing between strikes that should have connected, but somehow never did. "You're Keltharians! Feared across 12 systems! Show me something!" 5 warriors surrounded her, coordinating their attack. Torres grabbed a discarded rifle, swung it like a club, and cleared a circle around herself in 3 seconds flat. 2 warriors went down with shattered helmets. Another took the stock to the stomach and folded like paper. Back on the Crimson Talon, Vex Ari watched the helmet cam feeds with growing horror. His warriors, his trained professional soldiers, were being systematically dismantled by one human who looked like she was having the time of her life. "Sir, should we send reinforcements?" Cress asked, her voice small. "She's one person. 50 soldiers should be enough for one person." On the screen, Torres planted her foot on a container, used it to launch herself, at a warrior twice her size, and somehow got him into a chokehold that brought him crashing to the ground. She rolled away from a blade strike, came up holding a piece of broken pipe, and proceeded to use it to conduct what could only be described as a percussion performance on Keltharian helmets. "Sir, 20 warriors down. 25. 30. Thrax struggled to his feet, blood leaking from his broken helmet. He could barely see straight. Around him, his team was scattered across the cargo bay like broken toys. Torres stood in the center of it all, barely breathing hard, surrounded by groaning warriors. "You know the funny thing?" she said, walking toward him. "I'm not even that good. I mean, I'm good. Don't get me wrong. But I had a buddy back in the Marines, guy named Marcus Webb. Now that guy was scary. He could do this blindfolded. Literally. We tested it once during a training exercise. 35 opponents, full contact, and he was blindfolded the entire time." She reached down, picked up one of the plasma rifles, and examined it. "These are nice, by the way. Keltharian military grade. You must have spent a fortune on them. Shame about the inhibitor. They'll work again in about an hour, if you're wondering." Thrax tried to speak, but his translator had been damaged. All that came out was a wet, rattling sound. "Shh, don't try to talk. You might have a punctured lung. Nothing fatal, probably, but it's going to hurt like hell for a while." Torres crouched down next to him, and her expression softened slightly. "Listen, I'm going to tell you something important. Something you need to bring back to your commander. You ready?" Thrax managed a weak nod. "Humans don't lose fights in enclosed spaces. It's our thing. We evolved as persistence hunters. We chased prey until it dropped from exhaustion. We fought predators in caves and tunnels where size was a disadvantage. We spent thousands of years getting really, really good at hurting things in tight quarters." She patted his shoulder almost gently. "You brought 50 warriors into my home, my territory, where I make the rules. That wasn't brave. That was stupid." She stood up, addressed the moaning mass of defeated soldiers. "Now, you're all going to drag yourselves back to your ship. You're going to tell your commander that the cargo stays with me because it was never yours to begin with. And if he has a problem with that, he's welcome to come over here himself and discuss it. I'll make coffee." On the Crimson Talon, Vex Ari's face had gone through several interesting color changes. Purple to blue, to a sickly green that suggested his stomach was considering a dramatic exit strategy. "Sir?" Cress prompted. "Get them back! Get them all back! Now!" "And the cargo?" Vex Ari looked at the screen, where Torres was now sitting on a container, casually eating what looked like an apple, while 50 warriors struggled to their feet around her. "The cargo can stay right where it is. Sir, the Empire will want to know why we failed. Then you can explain it to them." Vexari snapped. I'm sure they'll understand when you tell them we were defeated by one human with a plasma inhibitor and a bad attitude. The boarding party limped back through the airlock, a parade of shame and broken armor. Thrax was the last to leave. He paused at the threshold, looked back at Torres. She waved. He closed the airlock. The Crimson Talon disengaged its docking clamps and began backing away from the Dancing Sparrow. On the bridge, the crew worked in silence, nobody wanting to be the first to speak. Finally, Cress cleared her throat. Sir, there's an incoming transmission from the human vessel. On screen. Torres appeared again, still eating her apple. Hey, Commander. Thanks for stopping by. Really livened up my afternoon. Oh, and one more thing. What? Vexari asked through gritted teeth. You might want to check your ship's external sensors. Port side, near the engine housing. Cress brought up the external cameras. There, attached to the hull with magnetic clamps, were 50 small devices. They blinked with cheerful red lights. Those are tracking beacons, Torres explained, taking another bite of her apple. Military grade, impossible to remove without specialized equipment, broadcast on a frequency that every human ship in this sector will pick up. Congratulations, Commander. You're now broadcasting your position to every human freighter, military vessel, and private contractor within 3 light years. I hope you weren't planning on doing anything sneaky anytime soon. Vexari felt something inside him break. It might have been his pride. It might have been his will to live. Hard to say. Why? He managed. Torres shrugged. Because you threatened my ship. Because you tried to steal cargo that doesn't belong to you. And because someone needs to teach the Keltharian Empire that humans aren't easy prey. She smiled again. That same dangerous smile from before. Pass it along, would you? We're not the dominant species in this galaxy, but we're working on it, and we don't work well with bullies. The transmission cut off. The Crimson Talon limped away into the black, trailing tracking beacons like shameful ornaments. 3 cycles later, the story of the Dancing Sparrow had spread through Keltharian space like a virus through a badly ventilated ship. Commander Vexari had been demoted to waste management oversight, which seemed fitting given how thoroughly his career had been flushed. The tracking beacons took 6 days to remove and cost the Empire enough credits to fund a small moon colony. But the Empire, being the Empire, decided this couldn't stand. Pride demanded satisfaction. Honor required vengeance. And several high-ranking officials really wanted that cargo, so they sent the Blade Council. The Blade Council wasn't a military unit in the traditional sense. They were something worse. 5 elite warriors, each a master of close combat, each undefeated in personal battle. They didn't travel with fleets or armies. They didn't need to. Planets had surrendered at the mere news of their arrival. Warlords had fled their own fortresses. The Council had ended 3 separate rebellions without firing a single shot. They were artists, and their art was violence. Their ship, the Silent Verdict, dropped out of hyperspace near the trading station where the Dancing Sparrow was docked for repairs. No threats, no demands, no dramatic speeches. Just 5 warriors stepping onto the station with weapons that looked like they cost more than the station itself. Station Master Curel, a 4-eyed Voskan with excellent survival instincts, immediately pulled up the docking records. Oh no. Oh no. His assistant, a young Torellian named Pip, looked confused. What's wrong? The human from the stories. She's here. And now, they're here. Curel pointed at the security footage, showing the Blade Council walking through the main concourse. People were diving out of their way like the floor was lava. Should we warn her? Curel considered this. On one hand, professional courtesy suggested he should. On the other hand, getting between a human and the Blade Council seemed like an excellent way to become a cautionary tale. Send her a message, keep it brief. After that, we seal the command center and pray to every god we can remember. In the maintenance bay, Captain Maya Torres was elbow-deep in her ship's environmental controls, cursing the day she'd bought this particular model from that particular dealer who'd sworn it was reliable. Her knuckles were bleeding, her coffee had gone cold, and she'd just discovered that someone had apparently tried to fix the air recycler with chewing gum and hope. Her communicator buzzed. She pulled it out with greasy fingers, read the message, and sighed. Well, that's inconvenient. She climbed out of the access panel, wiped her hands on a rag that was probably dirtier than her hands, and headed for her cabin. The Blade Council. She'd heard of them. Everyone had heard of them. 5 undefeated warriors coming to kill her over some cargo she didn't even steal. The universe had a sense of humor sometimes, and that sense of humor was terrible. She changed quickly. Combat gear, reinforced joints, boots with magnetic soles in case things got weird. Checked her collection of souvenirs from various battles. The plasma inhibitor was spent, single-use device. But she had other toys. A Corvin shock blade, Torellian impact gloves, a Zynthian nerve disruptor that was definitely illegal in 43 systems. And her favorite, a simple metal rod, about 3 feet long, weighted at both ends. Old Earth design. Basically, a staff. Humans had been fighting with sticks since before they discovered fire. Some traditions deserved respect. She walked out of the Dancing Sparrow and into the maintenance bay, where 5 figures were waiting. They were impressive, she had to admit. Each wore armor that seemed to drink in the light. Each carried a blade that hummed with contained energy. They moved with the absolute confidence of people who had never known defeat. The one in front, presumably the leader, stepped forward. His armor was black with gold trim, and his blade glowed with a sick green light. Captain Torres, we are the Blade Council of the Keltharian Empire. You have dishonored our warriors. You have stolen our property. You have made a mockery of our strength. We are here to correct these mistakes. Torres leaned on her staff, affecting a casual pose she absolutely didn't feel. That's a lot of words for, we're here to fight you. Why not just lead with that? Save time. We are not savages. We observe the proper forms. Right. Because proper forms matter when you're planning to kill someone. She looked at each of them in turn. 5 of you. That's actually kind of flattering. Vex Ari only sent 50 regular troops. You must think I'm pretty. Dangerous. We know you are dangerous. That is why we will show you respect by ending you quickly. Appreciate it. Really. But here's the thing. Torres straightened up, rolling her shoulders. Your intel is outdated. You know what I did to 50 warriors, but you don't know who taught me. You don't know where I learned to fight. And you definitely don't know about Mars. The leader paused. Mars? Mars. The training facility. The place where humanity takes soldiers and turns them into something else. I spent 3 years there. Not as a student, as an instructor for the advanced program. You know what we taught? Nobody answered. They were too busy being intimidating, which was fair. We taught humans how to fight aliens. Specifically, we studied every major species, Keltharian physiology, combat doctrine, weapon preferences. We knew you'd come for us eventually. The galaxy's a rough neighborhood, and humans are the new kids. So, we prepared. She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. You want to know the funny part? You 5, right here, are a training scenario. I literally wrote the lesson plan for how to handle the Blade Council. Your words are hollow boasting. Maybe. Guess we'll find out. Oh, one more thing. She pressed a button on her wrist unit. Magnetic locks engaged throughout the maintenance bay. Doors sealed. Emergency protocols activated. I've sealed the bay. Nobody in, nobody out. Station Master Curel is watching on cameras, and he's probably already sent a message to Earth reporting this. So, if you kill me, you'll have started a diplomatic incident that'll make the tracking beacon thing look like a minor inconvenience. And if I kill you, well, that's 5 fewer legendary warriors the Empire has to throw around. You cannot defeat us all. Probably not. But I'm going to make you work for it. She spun the staff once, testing its weight. Who's first? The second warrior, smaller than the leader but radiating barely contained violence, stepped forward. Her armor was silver. Her blade glowed blue. I am Sevrix. I have killed 200 opponents in single combat. I have never been wounded. I will enjoy adding a human to my collection. 200? That's adorable. I've trained 3,000 students. Most of them are still alive, which means I know how to hurt people without killing them. That's actually harder, in case you were wondering. Sevrix attacked without warning, a blur of silver and blue light. Her blade whistled through the air where Torres had been standing a fraction of a second earlier. Torres rolled, came up swinging her staff, caught Sevrix in the ribs hard enough to crack armor. The warrior stumbled, shocked. Nobody made her stumble. Keltharian Physiology, Lesson 1, Torres said, circling. Your ribs are thinner on the left side. Evolutionary holdover from when your species had gills. Hit them hard enough, you can crack straight through to the lungs. Sevrix snarled and attacked again. Faster this time. Her blade moved in patterns too quick to follow. But Torres wasn't trying to follow. She was reading body language, watching the warrior's center of gravity, predicting strikes before they happened. Duck, spin, block with the staff, counterstrike to the knee joint, another to the shoulder. Sevrix was fast, but Torres had fought faster. She'd sparred with augmented humans who could move at inhuman speeds. This was just biology. The fight lasted 90 seconds. It ended with Torres's staff across Sevrix's throat and the warrior on her knees, blade skittering across the floor. Stay down, Torres advised. You've got 2 cracked ribs and a dislocated shoulder. Fight's over for you. She turned to face the others. Next? The third warrior didn't wait for an introduction. He simply charged, roaring, his massive blade held in both hands. Torres grabbed a wrench from a nearby tool bench and threw it. Not at the warrior, at the lights directly above him. Sparks rained down. The warrior flinched, just for a second. Torres closed the distance, slid under his guard, and drove her elbow into his throat with surgical precision. He went down, gasping. Keltharian vision is better than human in most spectrums, but you're vulnerable to sudden light changes. Throws off your depth perception for about 3 seconds. More than enough time. The fourth warrior activated some kind of energy shield and advanced cautiously. Smart. Defensive. Torres respected that. She pulled out the Torellian impact gloves, slipped them on. They hummed to life, gravitational fields warping around her fists. Those won't penetrate my shield, the warrior said. Don't need to penetrate, just need to hit hard enough. Torres punched the shield. It held, but the kinetic force transferred through it, and the warrior staggered back. She hit it again. Again. The shield was designed to stop blades and energy weapons, not concussive force. On the 5th hit, the shield generator overloaded. The warrior's armor sparked and died. Torres hit him once more, in the chest, and he collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Lesson 3. Technology has weaknesses. Always have a backup plan. That left 2. The leader and the 5th warrior, who hadn't moved at all. The leader's expression had changed from confidence to calculation. You are better than we were told. I tried to warn you. Nobody listens. The cargo. It contains Keltharian military technology. We cannot allow it to remain in human hands. About that. Torres leaned on her staff again, breathing hard now. 4 fights in rapid succession would tire anyone. That cargo? I don't have it anymore. Sold it to a Torellian merchant convoy 3 days ago. They're halfway to the outer reaches by now. You came here for nothing. The leader's blade stopped humming. You lie? Check the station records. Bill of sale was filed with customs. The cargo you want is gone. I kept the money, obviously. Used it to buy the good coffee I mentioned to vex Ari. The fifth warrior finally spoke, her voice soft and somehow more dangerous than all the others combined. Then we will kill you for the principle of the thing. Well, when you put it that way. Torres shifted her stance, preparing for the hardest fight yet. The fifth warrior moved like liquid death, her blade singing through the air in patterns that seemed to defy physics. Torres blocked, barely, feeling the impact rattle her bones. This one was different. This one was actually skilled. They fought across the maintenance bay, a deadly dance of blade and staff. Torres gave ground, looking for openings that didn't exist. The warrior was perfect, every move precise, every strike calculated. But perfection had a weakness. It was predictable. Torres let the warrior drive her back toward a support pillar, seemed to stumble. The warrior took the bait, lunged for a killing strike. Torres rolled aside at the last second, and the energy blade bit deep into the metal pillar. Stuck. Just for a second. Torres didn't waste it. She brought her staff around in a devastating arc, caught the warrior in the temple, and followed up with a strike to the back of the knee. The warrior went down. That left the leader. He looked at his fallen team, at Torres standing in the center of the bay, with blood on her knuckles and fire in her eyes, and made a decision. He lowered his blade. You have won, human. This day belongs to you. Damn right it does. Torres was exhausted, running on adrenaline and spite. So here's what happens next. You take your team, and you leave. You go back to the Empire, and you tell them the truth. Tell them that humans aren't easy prey. Tell them we've been preparing for this since we first looked up at the stars and realized we weren't alone. Tell them every human they meet has been trained to fight, to survive, to win. They will not believe me. Then bring proof. Bring these four and their broken pride. Bring the story of how one human beat the legendary Blade Council in her own maintenance bay while covered in engine grease. She pointed her staff at him. Or, don't tell anyone and live with the shame. Either way, the cargo's gone, and this fight is over. The leader considered this for a long moment. Then he sheathed his blade, gathered his warriors, and walked toward the sealed door. Torres released the locks. As they left, the leader paused. You said you wrote training scenarios about us. What was the expected outcome? Torres smiled wearily. Mutual destruction. The instructor dies, but takes at least 3 council members with her. I exceeded expectations. You are terrifying, Captain Torres. Thanks. I get that a lot. The Blade Council left the station an hour later. Word spread quickly. The undefeated warriors had been defeated. By one human. Again. Station Master Curel emerged from the command center once he was sure they were gone. He found Torres sitting on a cargo container, drinking terrible station coffee and looking at repair estimates for her ship. You're insane, he said admiringly. Probably. But I'm alive, and my coffee fund is healthy, so I'm calling it a win. The Empire won't forget this. Good. I'm counting on it. She took another sip of coffee, made a face. Next time they think about messing with humanity, they'll remember the dancing sparrow. They'll remember that we don't back down. We don't give up. And we definitely don't lose fights in enclosed spaces. What will you do now? Torres looked at her ship, at the long list of repairs she could finally afford. Fix my environmental controls. Maybe take a vacation. Somewhere quiet, where nobody's trying to kill me. Does such a place exist? Probably not, but it's nice to dream. She finished her coffee, tossed the cup in a recycler, and headed back to work. Just another day in the life of a human in a galaxy that was slowly learning an important lesson. Humans didn't just survive, they thrived, and they fought like hell for what was theirs. Somewhere in Keltharian space, in a council chamber filled with important people making important decisions, a report landed on a very important desk. The official reading it went pale, then green, then made several calls to very powerful people. The conclusion was unanimous. Humanity was to be left alone. The cargo was a loss. The Pride was damaged, but would heal. But most importantly, nobody was ever boarding another human vessel without a damn good reason and an army to back them up. Captain Maya Torres, former colonial marine instructor, current cargo hauler, and unofficial ambassador of human stubbornness, would probably have laughed if she'd known. But she was too busy fixing her air recycler with proper tools this time, humming an old Earth song about freedom and fighting and never backing down. The galaxy was a big place, full of dangerous species and ancient civilizations. But humanity was making its mark, one fight at a time. And they were just getting started.